UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. Today is July 7th. It's the 75th anniversary of the Roswell crash. These are replicas. I wish they were the real deal. Give you an idea. And we're going to be talking about that and so much more. But first, a word from our very trusted sponsor, Noble Gold. Now, with inflation at 8.6% and climbing, you're going to need some help to get back to financial safety. Call them, and Noble Gold's expert will share their knowledge of gold IRAs so you won't have to worry about a thing. And if you're quick, they're giving away an incredible 1/10 of an ounce American Eagle gold-proof coin with every qualifying IRA or 401k rollover. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold, folks. I'm going to give them a call probably next week early. I've got about $10,000 I want to invest. And, the market is in a bear market, so why not? Call the team over at Noble Gold at 877-646-5347. Once again, 877-646-5347, or visit them at noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. So, Flying Saucer Run Ranch in Roswell region. There it is right there. This made international news when it happened. And then, of course, we get General Ramey empties Roswell saucer. Ramey says excitement is not justified. In my opinion, this is the beginning of the cover-up. And this was the prevailing paradigm that the powers that be operated under until 2017, where we had the first rung of the disclosure ladder happened on Tucker Carlson with Commander David Fravor, saying that the tic-tac shaped object that he saw was not of this earth. So this is from a presentation that I did. I have not reused this clip, but I think you'll find it interesting. And of course, it's Roswell new information. And what's interesting about this is, once again, there's another shot. RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. So here they are. It's husband and wife team. They are pastors. I think you'll find what they have to say incredibly interesting. And they talk about Colonel Hill. And I'll give you the backstory real quick. Colonel Hill was a retired military OSS, which is the forerunner of the CIA. Hill was an interrogator. He held different degrees, really smart guy. And what you see, these pastors, husband and wife team, came in to his life where he was basically a hospice type situation. And they were able to sell off his possessions and, of course, give the money to his family and whatever. That's what they did for a while as a living. And they got very friendly with him. And you'll see in the interview, they ask him point blank, well, what about this? What about Roswell? And you'll see what they have to say. So before I get into that, this is the lead into the story.
In 1947, an event happened in Roswell, New Mexico that continues to be subject of books, movies, and countless lectures. According to Mac Brazil, a local rancher, a flying disc, a UFO, had crashed on his ranch. Jesse Marcel Sr., an intelligence officer, investigated the crash. The discovery made international headlines, but was redacted the next day by the U.S. Army, who stated that Marcel had mistook the wreckage for that of a weather balloon. L.A. Marzulli interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr., who stated emphatically that what his father saw that day was a UFO, not a weather balloon. Marcel also told Marzulli that he had handled pieces of the wreckage that his father had brought home for his wife and son to see. Jesse Marcel Sr. and Jr. stood by their story for decades and never wavered from what they had seen and touched. Now, decades later, two witnesses have surfaced that add yet another interesting piece to the Roswell mystery. Here's their testimony in their own words.
And here is their testimony.
I said, Colonel, if they were humanoid and everything, I said, what was special about them? And again, the head drops and he thinks. And then he raised his head up at me and he held his hand up just like this. He said, they had 6 fingers, not 5. That's what he said that was special about them as far as their anatomy, that they were 6-fingered. And not 5 like we are.
Now we know that.
So there you have it, folks. The Rankins interviewed Colonel Hill, and he said that he was basically, Colonel Hill was flown from, I believe it was Houston. I could be wrong on that, but from Houston to Roswell within 24, 48 hours after the crash. There was one body that was still alive, and he tried to make communication with that and could not. They were very short, big black eyes. It's basically the Greys, what we know as the Greys. So Roswell, and we've talked about this actually in our UFO film, which is free right here on YouTube. If you open up the chat box, the text box right below this, right below, scroll down, UFO film number 1, number 2, there's the link. I can't, you need to watch them if you haven't already seen them, because it will open your eyes that the phenomena is very, very complex, very complex. So it is the 75th year anniversary of the Roswell crash. The powers that be lied, obfuscated, and did everything in their power to create this ridiculous story that it was a weather balloon. In our book, UFO Disclosure, I actually reprint the interview I had with Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr., who stated emphatically that the wreckage he handled was not from this earth. So there you go. It's the 75th year anniversary. We are on the 9th rung of the ladder of disclosure. I can talk about those real quickly. The first rung, of course, is Commander David Fravor. Whatever he saw was not from this earth. Second rung, Luis Elizondo, once again on Tucker Carlson's show, stating emphatically that the United States government has metal from UFOs, metal from crashed UFOs. The third rung, and that they are testing it. The third rung is Chris Mellon, once again on Tucker Carlson, stating that they've tested the metal and they have isotopic ratios in the metal not found on this earth. The fourth rung is the Pentagon leaking out information that the Pentagon has in its possession off-world vehicles not made on this earth. The fifth rung, which happened about a little over a year ago, is when they the government released their 9-page report on UFOs, which basically stated that out of 144 sightings, they could only disprove one of them. So they have 143 sightings, which they don't know what it is. Well, that's 9 pages. Meanwhile, we get 1,000 pages on the effect of bovine flatulence on greenhouse gassing on planet Earth. Not making this stuff up. The sixth rung is when NASA, never a straight answer, basically hired theologians to come in and try to figure out what would happen if they actually show up. What would happen to, let's say, Christianity? Interesting, huh? The seventh rung, this is my wheelhouse, Brett Baer, just a few weeks ago, stated on his record that women who are taken aboard UFOs become pregnant. He just dropped the story there. Didn't say what happens to the children afterwards, to the babies, and that's a whole kettle of fish, which I don't have time to get into. The eighth rung on the disclosure ladder, once again back on Tucker Carlson's show, where he sat down with 2 professional butchers, meat cutters, who stated that the cattle mutilations that we're seeing, whoever is doing this is done with laser-like precision. So that's something to really think about. The ninth rung, of course, again, a few weeks ago, Congress convenes and discusses the UFO phenomena, but it's basically a nothing burger. Thanks so much for watching. 75 years ago, something crashed in New Mexico, and we still have not learned the truth of the matter. Thanks so much for watching our UFO update. Remember, UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away.